who is the top quarterback heading into the 2024 season? Last year in 2023, there were two main guys, right? Drake May and Caleb Williams. Those are kind of like number one, number two, and you can make your argument who you thought was the top guy. But going into this season, in the 2024 season, you have 5 or 6 or so guys that could have a legit argument for being the top quarterback in the 2024 class. And so we're going to talk about a few of those guys and talk about what needs to happen for these guys, or for one of these guys to be the number one quarterback in the 2024 season for college football. And of course, this list of 5 or 6 guys could absolutely change, a few weeks into the season when someone starts playing a little bit better, or someone that we don't even talk about today could be the number one quarterback in college football when it's all said and done. So, number one, let's dive into it. Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback. I think this is everyone's favorite, right? If you look at any quarterback rankings or any quarterback kind of ratings, Carson Beck tends to be the number one quarterback, and definitely top 2 or 3 in most people's lists. But I think rightfully so. Last year was his first year starting as for the Georgia quarterback. It was his first year starting. And they didn't have a ton of big games per se, but the big games they did have, he showed up. Starting in the Auburn game, it was the fourth quarter. I think the game was tied. He did this really big drive that I think gave him a confidence boost moving forward. It allowed him to play a really good season. And then you had the games against Kentucky. His only game that he didn't play well in was the SEC championship against Alabama. But every other big game per se, Kentucky was ranked and they played him, Ole Miss. Every big game that he had until the SEC championship, he played really well. And now it helps when you have a great cast around him, and I think he had the best offensive line in the SEC. He was protected, but he also got the ball out extremely quick. I think he led the SEC and the amount of completions where the ball was thrown in less than 2.5 seconds. And he was also excellent pushing the ball downfield. So there's a lot to like about Carson Beck. And I think the season coming up, he's definitely the number one guy heading in my opinion. But he's got some tough games, right? They go to Alabama. They go to Texas. So they have some tough games to play. So that's either going to solidify him being the number one guy if he plays really well in those games, or if he struggles, maybe that does ding him and maybe someone else can jump up. But he's definitely, I think, the consensus number one heading into the season. Again, not the end of the season, or I'm not saying he's going to be the number one guy at the end of the season, but heading into the season, he's probably the number one guy. In this order, I just got this list off some website, 24/7, so I figured I'd talk about these guys. So this isn't necessarily a ranking. These are just guys who I think are in the contention to being the number one quarterback. At number 2, Shedeur Sanders, of course, the quarterback that has the most publicity. Whether you like him, love him, hate him, whatever it may be, I really enjoy watching him play. I think regardless what you think about Colorado or all the publicity going around it, Sanders can play. Sanders is a very good quarterback. Now, of course, there are improvement areas, like we talked about Carson Beck. There are improvement areas for Sanders, and that's getting rid of the ball quickly. Now, I think he had the most sacks last year. If he didn't have the most sacks out of any quarterback, he was definitely one of the top guys. And some of it was the offensive line, no doubt. The play calling where you have to hold on the ball and let plays develop. Maybe you didn't have the personnel for that type of system. But then also just holding on to the ball a bit too long, right? So I think you have to find plays. You have to develop schemes where the ball is getting rid quickly, where he's getting rid of the ball quickly. The ball is getting out of his hands quickly. I think that's his next big step because he can make any throw. He's very, very smart. He can process defenses. We've done some film breakdowns over Sanders where we talk about he sees one thing pre-snap, the defense does something totally different post-snap, and he adjusts to it and is able to deliver the ball to the right receiver. So he can absolutely play. Now, if Colorado is good this year, that's absolutely going to help him. If Colorado goes 4-8 again or 5-7, could he still be the best quarterback? Potentially. But I think if he can somehow get Colorado to 7 wins, 8 wins, whatever it may be, if Colorado gets to those numbers, it's going to be largely because of the play of Shedeur Sanders. So I think that's kind of his steps moving forward, his steps to be the top quarterback in college football in 2024, is if he can find a way to get Colorado to 7, 8, 9 wins, whatever it may be. Because, again, if they do that, it's going to be largely because of Shedeur Sanders. All right, number 3, Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback. I'm really excited for Quinn. I think you saw a big step forward in 2023 compared to 2022. Now, he missed a few games still. He still had some injuries, but he's definitely on most people's list as a top 3 or 4 quarterback heading into the season. And when you surround him with the receivers you surround him with, then you have a pretty good chance, right? Last year you had, 3 NFL guys, 4 if you include the running back he was thrown to. You had the tight end, Mitchell, Worthy, Whittington. So maybe 5 guys you surrounded him with that are in the league right now competing for spots. and you kind of replace those guys. You had a really good transfer portal, bringing in a lot of really good receivers to throw to, so I think he's in a really good position. And we saw improvements last year. His biggest ding that people talk about is his deep ball, and I get it. You probably want to be a bit more accurate, but when you have a play caller like Sark, sometimes you don't want to take those deep shots. Sometimes when you have receivers that like Worthy and Mitchell last year, you get the ball to them differently. It doesn't always have to be a deep ball. It's safer to throw a quick screen and let them bust a 50, 60 yard after catch type play. Now, you still want to see improvement. You still want to see him maybe step into his throws a bit more. But the improvement you saw from 2022 to 2023 tells me I think that you may see his best football in 2024. And if Texas is going to make a run on national championship, it's going to be because of Quinn Ewers, right? So far we've talked about Carson Beck, we've talked about Shedeur Sanders, and we've talked about Quinn Ewers. And I think these three guys are the top three in any order you want to put them in heading into the season. But again, that doesn't mean they're going to finish in that order or that they're going to be number one in general. And there's a few other guys I want to hit on before we get out of here that I think have a chance or at least talked about being one of the number one guys. Number 4 we got is Cam Ward, the former Incarnate Ward stud who went to Washington State, had 2 really good seasons, and now is at Miami, and we're hearing really, really good reviews. We're hearing such positive reviews. We're hearing just that he's making that team better. If Miami can get 10-plus wins, and they have a very easy schedule, relatively speaking, it's going to be because of Cam Ward. And so if Miami is able to get to that 10-plus win range, then Cam Ward is probably knocking on the door for potentially being the number one guy. I mean, he almost went to the draft this year, right? He probably, if I'm from the outside looking in, he probably didn't get the draft grade he potentially wanted, and saw you could probably make more going back to college this year, having a really good season at a school like Miami, and then you can be one of the top guys taken in the 2025 draft. So I'm really excited to see how he plays, especially with the program that Miami has had the past few years. There's a lot of talent, but they were missing that quarterback to drive them. You saw some glimpses with Tyler Van Dyke, but I think Cam Ward's the guy to really run this offense. I think he's going to be elusive with his legs. He's going to be able to buy time with his legs, but then he's just confident and persistent and decisive with his decision making. Cam Ward, one of the most exciting quarterbacks heading into the 2024 season, and a guy I'm really looking forward to watching. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback, I think is another guy. He's probably around that 5 or 6 range. You've talked to most people, but he arguably took the biggest step out of any quarterback from the 2022 season to the 2023 season. If you look at this time a year ago, they brought in 2 guys to compete with him. Is it Will Howard? I might be butchering the name. I can't remember exactly. Maybe it was Walker Howard. But regardless, the quarterback from LSU, the backup quarterback, high recruit, they brought him in. They brought the quarterback from Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders. They brought them in to compete with Jackson Dart, and he had the best season, one of the best seasons that any SEC quarterback had last year. So I thought he took a really big step, and I would anticipate another pretty big step, or at least the same type of season he had last year in year 3 of Lane Kiffin's offense. He knows the offense, similar to Quinn Ewers. He took some big steps. He's been in the offense for a while. He understands the offense, has a good relationship with Kiffin, and they brought in some really good ball players in the transfer portal. So this could be Ole Miss's year, and if it is, it's going to be because Jackson Dart is having a good season. Let's talk about 2 more guys I have. Let's go with another SEC quarterback, Jalen Milroe. And this is a guy who gets a lot of, for whatever reason, still gets criticized a ton. And I get it. He's got stuff to work on, like all these guys. We've talked about what each of these guys needs to work on and improve on. But man, his first year starting last year, and they were like a play away from going to the national championship. It's pretty damn good, right? He had a struggled the first few games, got benched, came back. I forget his first game back, who it was against, but pretty much from there on out, after that Texas game, after he got benched and then was out the USF game, he came back and was one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Everyone talks about the deep ball. Everyone talks about his explosive potential and his explosive playmaking ability, and that's what makes him so special. So the next steps for him is to consistently take the easy stuff, consistently hit your short to intermediate type throws. I think the Boers offense is going to be really, really beneficial for him. You don't want to take away what makes him special, and that's the explosive ability in his playmaking game, the deep ball and using his legs for big plays. So you don't want to take that away from him. But if he can develop, and I think he has a really good opportunity to develop, because it's only going to be year 2 of starting in the SEC. Like if you put his numbers and you gave those numbers to any coach in college football and said, hey, this is a first-year starting quarterback, they'd be like, hell yeah, give me that guy any day, all day. You know what I mean? So I think you have to leave room for him to be developed. Again, he's got to take that step forward, but there's a chance for him to be one of the top guys in college football. Last quarterback we'll hit on, and again, if I'm missing on people, let me know in the comments below who else you think should be considered. But Dylan Gabriel, right? Now talent-wise, his ceiling may not be as high as some of these guys we talked about, and he's been in college football for a long time, but this is year 6, if not mistaken. But still, he's produced everywhere he's gone. Every team he's been on, he's made that team better. And I know his first year at OU was down. He was injured some, but last year you saw a huge, probably his best season ever. You saw him run the ball a bit more. You saw him take some deep shots a bit more. And I think he was a big part of OU's success. So now being at Oregon, big-time college football, he's absolutely going to have a chance to showcase he's the best quarterback in college football. Now, he's going to have to produce. He's going to be playing against some really good defenses at times. But he's going to be in some really big games. If Oregon wins, if he puts up really big numbers against these teams and they make a run at the championship, at the national championship, which they highly likely can, he's going to be talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Now, there's an argument that you can plug in any quarterback in these systems and they can do well, and I get it. That's why maybe the ceiling isn't as high as some of these other guys. But as it relates to being the best quarterback in college football, I think he's definitely deserved to be talked about based off all the success he's had at UCF and then Oklahoma. All right, I know I haven't posted in a while. I just wanted to get back on it. We're going to be a bit more consistent. So let me know in the comments below what other content you want to see. We got some cool stuff coming out. I just wanted to jump on and talk about the top quarterbacks heading into 2024. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is the number 1 guy or the number 2 guy? Who did I miss that I should have talked about on here? There's some other really talented guys you can throw on Brady Cook. Could Nico Iamaleava, could he jump in and be one of these guys in his first year starting, right? So there's a lot of guys you can talk about. Let me know in the comments below who I missed. And again, if you like this quarterback content, we're going to be more consistent, I promise. And we're going to have videos on a weekly basis. So please consider liking, subscribing, all that fun YouTube stuff. It really does help the channel grow. And we want to put out the best college quarterback content that we can. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.